You know that supercomputer you carry around in your pocket? Well, it's the end result of this incredible 70-year journey, a story told in 5 huge leaps. Today, we're going to unpack exactly how we went from computers that filled entire rooms to something that fits right in the palm of your hand.
So yeah, how on earth did we pull off that incredible shrinking act? It's a story of making things smaller for sure, but it's also about this relentless quest for more and more power. So let's dive in and trace that journey from the very beginning.
Okay, to really get a grip on this journey, we've got to think in generations. But listen, in the computer world, a new generation isn't just like getting the latest iPhone. No way. It's a massive, fundamental shift in the technology itself. We're talking a complete reinvention of how we build and even interact with these machines.
So here's the roadmap for our journey today. We're going to walk through 5 totally distinct generations, and each one was kicked off by a piece of tech that changed everything. You ready? All right, let's dive in, starting right at the beginning. All right, so our story kicks off way back in the 1940s, and engineers were facing this huge challenge. How do you actually get a machine to think electronically? The answer, surprisingly enough, came from this fragile, glowing glass bulb. And that answer was the vacuum tube. You can basically think of it as a fancy light bulb that acts like an on-off switch. But, oh man, this solution created a whole mountain of new problems. I mean, just look at this list. These machines were absolutely colossal. They were so unreliable, tubes were constantly burning out, they generated so much heat they needed their own dedicated air conditioning, and they just guzzled electricity. We're talking about machines so expensive that only like governments or giant universities could even dream of owning one. And then came the breakthrough that changed absolutely everything: the transistor. Now, it was actually invented back in 1947, but it took a good decade for it to really start showing up in computers. But when it did, whoa, total revolution. It did the exact same job as a vacuum tube, but as you can see here, it was tiny, way more reliable, and used just a fraction of the power. This was the spark that lit the fire for the second generation. Okay, so things were getting better. Computers were shrinking, they were more reliable, but let's be real, they were still a massive pain to actually use. The third generation, this is the turning point. This is the moment our whole relationship with these machines started to change, and for good. So the next big leap was just an incredible feat of engineering. The question was, instead of carefully wiring up every single transistor by hand, what if you could just print them? Well, that's exactly what engineers figured out how to do. They etched and packed hundreds of transistors onto one single tiny chip of silicon. And just like that, the integrated circuit, or the IC, was born. And this right here shows you the night and day difference it made. I mean, think about it. We went from feeding these huge stacks of punch cards into a machine to just typing on a keyboard and seeing the results pop up instantly on a monitor. That was the huge shift. For the very first time, you could have a real-time back-and-forth conversation with the computer. It was a total game changer. So the third generation kind of opened the door for more people to use computers. But the fourth generation, it didn't just open the door, it kicked it right off its hinges. This wasn't just another step forward, it was the revolution, the one that would eventually put a computer on every single desk and in every home. And you can trace this entire revolution back to one single innovation from one single company: Intel. And what they created would completely redefine the very idea of what a computer even was. So here's how it all went down. In 1971, Intel pulls the curtain back on the 4004 chip. Now, this wasn't just another integrated circuit. Nope, this was the world's first microprocessor. Try to wrap your head around this. The entire brain of a computer, the CPU, the memory, all the controls, all squeezed onto a single piece of silicon. That was the key that unlocked the door to the personal computer. Yeah, this quote really says it all, doesn't it? The scale of this achievement is it's mind-boggling. All that computing power that once filled a massive room could now literally, and I mean literally, fit in the palm of your hand. And the impact? It was absolutely world-changing. This one little invention paved the way for the very first PCs from IBM and Apple. It gave us the power to link computers together into networks, which, you guessed it, eventually became the internet. And you know all this stuff we take for granted now, like using a mouse or clicking on icons? All of that became possible because of the microprocessor. And that brings us pretty much to today. We've made computers unbelievably small, incredibly fast, and connected to everything. So what's left? What's the next frontier? Well, the goal of the 5th generation isn't just about shrinking things down anymore. Now, it's all about making them smarter. Yeah, the 5th generation is really defined by one huge goal: artificial intelligence. And this is being made possible by some new tech, like something called ultra-large-scale integration, which is really just a fancy way of saying we can now pack millions of components onto one chip. And also parallel processing, which lets computers chew on a bunch of different problems all at the same time. You see, the focus has totally shifted from just raw speed to actual, intelligence. And let me tell you, the ambitions here are massive. We're talking about building machines that can really understand us when we talk to them, that can actually learn from their own mistakes and experiences, and can even organize themselves to solve problems that are way too complex for any single human mind. This is the bleeding edge of computing, and we are living through it right now. So when you look at it all laid out like this, you can really see how each generation was just this crucial stepping stone. We went from those huge, hot vacuum tubes to the tiny, reliable transistors, then to integrated circuits that let us actually talk to computers, then to the powerful microprocessors that brought them into our homes, and now we're on this quest for AI that can actually truly think. So this whole journey, from a machine that filled a room to a supercomputer that fits in your pocket, all of it happened in less than a single human lifetime. It's been an absolutely incredible ride. Which, of course, leaves us with one last really fascinating question to think about. If this is what the first 5 generations managed to give us, what in the world are the next ones going to unlock?